Good morning, UUCC. How you doing? My name's John Bacon, and I'm a worship associate of this congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Cleveland. The tagline at the bottom of my emails reads, "Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony." It's a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. And to me, the thought part sort of embodies the beliefs and values, but it seems like there might be one part missing in order to achieve something that sounds like authenticity. And that's adding in emotions to make it more complete. This house includes people with diverse belief systems. We have people from Jewish, Christian, pagan, Buddhist, humanist, and many other heritages. We have deists and theists and agnostics and atheists and people who can't easily be defined. Personally, I'm sort of a Buddhist, Christian, Stoic UU. And like me, many of us have beliefs extracted from many spiritual sources. In this house, we have people from most of the LGBTQ and yes, S spectrum. This is not the congregation of the arbitrary and capricious, words that have gained new relevance in our society in the last few months. This is the congregation of the thoughtful, the discerning, and the active. We gather here for a multitude of reasons: to find community, to seek spiritual and personal truths, to question, to nurture heart and soul, to be nurtured, to explore new ideas, to find comfort, and perhaps to find the answers to some of our more significant questions. You are welcome here, no matter who you are, where you're from, or whom you love. We especially welcome guests who are worshiping with us for the first time, either in person or online. If you want to find out more about us, there's this handy-dandy QR code on the back of this little folder in the pew in front of you, or you can go directly to our internet site, uuccleveland.org, or just talk to someone who happens to be floating around after the service. We're about to enter sacred space, so please take a moment to silence your noisemakers and other digital devices so that our sacred spaces sound. Today, our Chalice lighter is going to be Bob McKim, who's a longtime member of Here and Before Society. And Bob is one of the stalwarts from the Archive Committee. So please join me in the words to our covenant on the front side of the yellow sheet of paper in the pew in front of you. We cultivate trust with one another by celebrating differences, honoring boundaries, and offering compassion and care. We listen to each other deeply with curiosity and wonder. We speak for ourselves without the need to defend ourselves or persuade one another. We create safe and brave space for healthy conflict, creativity, and fun. We reconcile through forgiving and making amends when we hurt one another.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Randy Partain. My pronouns are they, them, and I am delighted to be with you in worship today, whether you are here in person or joining us online. I'm reminded today of the words of Howard Thurman, who says, "There is something in you that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in other people. And if you can't hear it, then you are reduced by that much." If I were to ask you, what is the thing that you desire most in life, you would say a lot of things off the top of your head, most of which you wouldn't believe, but you would think you were saying the things that I thought you ought to think that you should say. But I think that if you were stripped to whatever there is in you that is literal and irreducible, and you tried to answer that question, the answer may be something like this: I want to feel that I am thoroughly and completely understood, so that now and then I can take my guard down and look out around me and not feel that I will be destroyed with my defenses down. I want to feel completely vulnerable and absolutely secure at the same time. So in that spirit of creating space where we might be completely vulnerable and absolutely secure at the same time, may we enter into worship together. We are going to sing hymn number 1012, which is in the teal hymnal, When I Am Frightened. Before we do that, I invite you to take a moment to turn to the people around you and let them know your whole self is safe here. I meant to mention at the top of the service that we do have our We Worship space, W-E-E, We Worship space in the front of the sanctuary now. I know sometimes if you've been away with families over the last few weeks, you may not have seen this get introduced, so I just want to welcome any young people, but also anybody else that wants to be in this space, you're welcome to be here for the service. There's crayons and pipe cleaners and all kinds of things. If you just want to pick up something to color and take some crayons back to your seat, we've got little clipboards here with some things to help keep your hands busy while your ears are working, if you want. And also, if you're joining us online, I want to invite you to put any joys or concerns that you might want to share with the congregation into the comments below the video. We do have a book here that people can write in before the service, and we've been inviting people to place stones in the water ahead of the service during our centering music, if you have joys or concerns you want to acknowledge just with a stone in the water. But you can write some things down that you want folks to know about, and so Ron McClellan is sharing today a note of joy and relief. It seems like doctors and Ron have found a combination of meds that have calmed bipolar depression, and that is really wonderful. Ron, thank you for sharing that with us. And personal prayers needed today, probably for lots of folks. So I invite you to join in a spirit of reflection, meditation, or prayer as you are willing. Spirit of love and life, God, Goddess, Parent, animate force that flows through all beings and connects us to one another, connects us to all life. May we feel that centering groundedness within us that lets us know that our celebrations and our concerns are safe in the container of this community. May we be willing to share with one another the things that weigh on us or the things that lighten our spirits, the things that make us want to dance exuberantly, and may we be willing to dance exuberantly in one another's presence. May we hold all of these joys or concerns represented by these stones with care, acknowledging that all of us is what we bring into this community. The things that look pretty and fantastic dressed up, and the things that look like we just rolled in here and didn't know what to do with some piece of us and brought it anyway. May we welcome all of who we are in connection and love. Amen, and blessed be.
Good morning. My name is Jenny Papp. I am the Director of Lifespan Faith Development for this congregation. My pronouns are she and they. What a fall-feeling morning already, right? It's all right. It's a welcome relief. I believe I've shared this story with y'all before, but it's a favorite of mine, and when we began talking about this worship service, I thought I'd do it again. So there was a young person named Norman, and Norman had always been perfectly normal. He played with his friends at the playground. He played with his dog. He loved ice cream cones with 3 scoops, the chocolate peanut butter kind with the cups, and then a vanilla, and then a chocolate, just to bring it all together. Just perfectly normal. Until one day, he grew a pair of wings. Now, Norman had imagined growing taller. Norman had imagined that someday he might grow a beard like his dad. But he had really never imagined growing a pair of wings. Still, they were here now. And so, I think like we would all do, it seemed a good day to test them out. So Norman went up, and he swooped, and he went all around and up and down, and pretty soon was generally having the most fun ever. The most fun ever. But then, he had to go in for dinner. He got the call. You see, now though, Norman wasn't sure what to do. He had always been so normal, he was not sure what his parents would think about these wings. So he folded them up and he put on his winter coat. And he went into the house. Well, his parents didn't notice the wings. They thought the heavy parka at the supper table was kind of different. However, they were going to let that go. Wasn't hurting anything. Bath time became a little problematic. Bedtime was uncomfortable. It was hot. But Norman had decided that no one should see his wings ever. So this is how it was going to be. The next day, Norman went to the park to see his friends. Really wasn't a whole lot of fun. He was too hot to be able to play any of his favorite games. So it went on. Long car journeys were a little unbearable. The air conditioning was just never quite right. Going to the swimming pool was pretty dreadful. Couldn't get in. Couldn't do anything fun at the pool. And nothing compared to how bad it was at the birthday party when everybody was in the bouncy house. It was just too hot. The only time that Norman felt normal was when it rained. One day, a boy tried to pull his coat off, and Norman had to run away. He's mad and sad. Didn't like that. His parents were concerned. You could see that. But the coat wasn't that important that they insist upon anything, so that was all right. They just let that go. He just really wished he'd never grown these stupid wings. Dumb things. And then, as he sat around being unhappy one day, he looked up and he saw some birds. And they were flying. And that made Norman remember how amazing that flight had been. How wonderful it had been to swoop around in the sky. And it occurred to Norman that it was the coat that was making him miserable, not the wings. So he threw off his coat, and his wings came out. Oh, they were so beautiful. It felt so good. And he went way up into the sky, and he was swooping and so happy to be free of that coat. He looked down, and he saw some other children all wrapped up in their winter coats, uncomfortable. And they looked up, and they saw him. And he kind of looked around at each other. There was a little bit of a pause, a beat. And then all the coats came off. And they all leapt up. And the sky was full of children with their beautiful, unique wings soaring through the sky. The sky was filled with flying, happy, loving people. Norman had never felt so happy. And he realized right then that there was no such thing as perfectly normal. But he was perfectly Norman, which was just as it should be. Norman found out how wonderful it was to be himself and found a community of people who also wanted to be their wonderful selves all together, to be there for each other. And that was amazing. So sometimes look up. Never know, you might see Norman flying overhead, inviting you to join him. Thank you for sharing the story with me.
I didn't have to research Slow Roll Cleveland because I take part in it very frequently. And so does Kat, my wife. She actually goes more than I do. And Kevin Ortner, who's another member of the congregation, who many of you probably know, is one of the squad that helps keep people safe. So Slow Roll Cleveland is every Monday night, somewhere between 500 to 1,000 bicycle riders get together. And they ride all kinds of bikes, from 1950 Schwinn's all the way to somebody's brand new e-bike or racer. And they go for an 8 or 10 mile ride through neighborhoods that aren't usually visited, through places that aren't normally places you would necessarily go. And there's, brown people and white people and black people and, pink people and green people and all kinds of people, thin, fat, tall, short, 85-year-old grandmothers and 6-year-old kids. And they all go through these neighborhoods, and people come out from their houses and turn on their screens and quickly take videos of these 500 people going through their neighborhood, shouting out, "Happy Monday! Happy Monday!" And it's maybe the best thing that happens to one of them, that entire day, to have somebody be in a parade down their street and yelling out "Happy Monday." And at first I was sort of grumpy and, my curmudgeonly self about this, until I started to realize just how much fun it was and how good it was for every little kid who came out and looked at us in wonder at seeing 500 bikes rolling down the road together. Please give generously within your means. You can place your offering, cash or check, in the plate, or use the Cash App handle $UUCC 44122. Use the memo line to indicate today's date and the recipient, Slow Roll Cleveland. Thank you. For those of you who are going to quickly grab your phones and look up Taco Pa Turner, she is sometimes called a midwife of the psyche. Toko Pa's work focuses on belonging, restoring the feminine, reconciling paradox, elevating grief, and facilitating ritual. Her beliefs and methods are founded in Sufism and Jungian dream approaches. Here's some of her words. So often I experience the quiet terror most people feel in being seen, being heard. And yet, to be seen, to be heard, is the one thing we want more than anything in the world. But because so many experience criticism, dismissal, or invalidation, the moment we brave our voice, our art, our vulnerability into the open, we learn instead to be silent, to be covered, to be small. After a while, we get so used to keeping our inner life a secret that we become distant even from ourselves. We've made a hedging around the very places we should be depending upon each other. We've privatized pain. And then it's hard to reach out. It's hard to be seen with your messy lostness, exhaustion, and overwhelm as you stumble through the complexities of life. But how else can someone become trustworthy unless you allow them to share in your hardship? How can we form the village we ache for unless we allow ourselves to wrestle with these things together?
We are talking today about authenticity. We're considering this necessary ingredient as a part of the larger picture of what we've been talking about this summer, this idea that we have an opportunity to bridge the gap between current reality and a vision of wholeness. As Unitarian Universalists, we found that we build that vision on the foundation of liberating love, on our values that we hold in common. But there might also be some things that you have, that you hold in your heart, that you cherish, that you want to be a part of that vision of wholeness too. And so our sense of authenticity is an ingredient that calls us away from getting stuck in current reality and being able to envision what that hopeful future might look like. I've been aware more and more that there are people that hold a different vision that they are moving toward. And they're moving toward it with some conviction. They've been working at it for decades now. And it's not a vision that I would consider to be a vision of wholeness or shalom. It's a vision of oppression and control and fear. And we see it play out in so many ways. We can't even allow colors to be on a sidewalk anymore because it might reflect an identity that we have to control and minimize, marginalize. And I say we, I don't mean we. But it also makes me think about our community and all of the other communities of people who have had to forge their own way, to make their own found family, and to draw hedges of protection around it because of a sense of not being acceptable in other places. And I wonder what it would look like if we decided that all of the people that have this common vision of wholeness could be in community with one another and really see one another and really be vulnerably present with one another. What would that look like? I mean, it could happen at a place like Slow Roll Cleveland, where everybody can just show up and have a bike, and that's the only criteria. It could happen at the LGBT Center, because there is a population of people there that are trying to build solidarity and wholeness. It could happen in some other places. Why wouldn't it happen at a Unitarian Universalist church? What do we do that limits our ability to be authentic and to build authentic community with all of the people that we might embrace in our vision of wholeness? And we personally, I know, we yearn for a sense of belonging. We need deep connection as human beings, and yet we show up as our false selves so much of the time. We long to be seen and known and accepted for who we are, and then we don't let people see and know who we are. Because authenticity scares the life out of us. We've learned over the years to be afraid of what other people think of us, to be afraid of other people's judgment or criticism, to be afraid that we are going to get excluded if we show up just as we are. And so as a result, we learn as human beings to hide it and fake it. That's what we learn in our first formation. And this is especially true of us who grew up going to church. And I think from the stories I've heard, this holds true no matter what church you went to. Church wasn't really safe for a lot of us when we were growing up. If a person didn't agree with and align their lives with everything that the church believed, when I was growing up at least, they'd be criticized, sometimes kicked out, excluded, shunned in some communities. Shunning is a thing. And so we don't show up authentically because we're afraid of what might happen. And whether you grew up going to church or not, most of us learned to be inauthentic in our first formation. We learned to hide our true selves. We learn to pretend to be more than we are when we need to impress people. And we learn to hide and not let people see us when it was scary. We learn to fake it and blend in just like everybody else. And today we're awash with all of these stories of self-effort and perfectionism. We have this cultural conviction, it seems, that if we say something confidently enough and often enough, then it will become true. Or that we can Photoshop our lives to look ideal rather than face the messiness of being human. I don't believe any picture I see on Instagram because I know everything is filtered and touched up and made to look just so. Nobody's life is that perfect. Nobody's food is that perfect. But we have this message coming at us all the time that that's what our food is supposed to look like when we cook it in our own kitchens with our own hands. That's what our lives are supposed to look like when we live them authentically. And all of our life-affirming values as Unitarian Universalists, all of our principles depend on authenticity to be manifest in our relationships. They assume a foundation of authenticity. If our relationships and our connections with ourselves and other people in the world around us are built on false pretenses, we're just playing make-believe. How can we know and affirm one another in beloved community if we spend our time and energy hiding who we are? So what we believe about human worthiness will have a powerful impact on our willingness to be authentic. Our spiritual beliefs matter. Some people in this room, I'm sure, grew up with the idea that God's love is unconditional, that you cannot do anything to get God to love you any more or any less. How would that compare to our vision for human love and human relationship in beloved community? What would it be to trust a community to love you so much unconditionally that you couldn't do anything to make it love you more or less? And our earliest experiences of authority formed our first impressions of who God is. Even among Unitarian Universalists who are atheists or humanists, we often carry some disembodied impression of absolute authority without quite having a name for it. We might think of it as the way things should be, or the way people should be, as if there's still some cosmic measuring stick, even if we don't believe in a divine being holding on to it. So what if the Unitarian Universalist assertion that every person is inherently worthy of love and belonging is an invitation to continually move closer to the incarnation of our life-affirming values without fear of getting it wrong, without fear of imperfection? What if we are invited to celebrate every step we make, confident in our own worthiness of unconditional love and unmerited grace? And what if extending that unconditional love to others is how we affirm and promote the inherent worthiness of every human being? That begins to paint a picture of authentic being to me. But it might help to understand what it is that we do instead. So, all of us, we have a package that we show to people. We want people to think certain things about us as our public self. When we are out and about with other human beings, we put on a public self that says, this is who I want you to think I am. We want people to think that we're smart. I'm going to draw, no, that really does not look like a brain. Maybe I'll draw a light bulb. I'll draw a light bulb with lots of great ideas because we want people to think we're smart. We want people to think that we're happy most of the time. What else do we want people to think about us? What's a part of our public self? Strength. Oh man, how do I draw strength? Maybe a muscle with an arm. I'm just going to write strength because I'm not an artist. Strength. What? Wise. Yeah. Well, let's see. You've got the symbol for that, so I'll draw a wise owl here. Very wise. Confident. I'm just going to write confident. Loving. Yeah, we want people to know that we're loving. And funny. Yeah, so I'll put a little tongue out on a smiley face. Organized. My goodness, let's see. Competent. Educated. Normal. We want people to think we're successful too. You're not saying it, but I'm going to put a dollar sign up here because in this country, successful means you've got plenty of money. We don't want people to think that we don't have plenty of money. That's not cool in this society. What else? Public self. We're put together. Yeah. Our hair is correct. Yeah, our clothes match. We've got earrings on that have the same thing on both sides. Our socks are the same color. Connected. Yeah, we want, the name dropping in our public selves. We want people to know who we know. That makes us feel more important, right? You may have heard that there's something inside the bag. There's always something inside the bag, and it may not be what we portray to people, because all of us have not just a public self, but we also have a private self. We've got a self that only our closest friends see. We've got a self that only the people in our families see. The self that we are just around the house. And maybe it isn't always wise and successful and put together. Maybe every time somebody tells me I have to get a routine medical procedure, what I know they're telling me is I'm going to get a colonoscopy. But nobody says that word. That's our private self. What else is part of our private self? We don't want people at the supermarket to know about it, but the people that live with us definitely know about it. What is that? Anger. Yeah, we can get angry at home. Things in the bathroom. Yeah. Schadenfreude. So we take delight in other people's misery. Well, we don't want to do that too publicly. That's something that seems a little bit tasteless, right? So fear. Yeah, we don't let people publicly know we're afraid. That's part of our private self. That's for people who know us really well. Our shame probably is something else. We'll get there though. Judgment, is that what you said? Judgment about other people? Yeah, we'll say judgmental things when they're out of the room, right? You'll turn to your person who lives in the house and say, could you believe? Our vulnerability, yeah, we we don't make that public. That's part of our private self. Say it a little bit louder. How we handle stress. Yeah, because we don't look very put together sometimes when we're handling stress, but we'll wait till people are out of the room and then we'll pull our hair out or scream or throw the mouse across the room or whatever it is that we do. Our amazing mistakes. Yeah, we try to hide them. We try to hide them, but sometimes when the people know us well, they get to see them. But there's something within that too. Our bad habits might be our private self. Some people who know us well might know our bad habits. But our shame voice, those things we say to ourselves in our heads that we would never say to another human being, especially the people we care about, that stuff, that stays secret. We don't let the people around us know that stuff. We don't even want ourselves to see it sometimes. We all have that kind of a secret self too. Maybe it's that thing that you did that you regret, that you've never really confessed to anybody. Maybe it's that wound that you experienced that you've never figured out how to get healed and you can't really speak about. Those things stay secret. The problem, of course, is that all of this stuff goes together. And so sometimes, even when we're trying to look strong and normal and confident and wise and organized, sometimes the way we handle stress becomes really public. Sometimes the things that we try to keep secret leak out in other ways. Because we are whole human beings with all of these things. We're not just the false mask that we put up so that other people will find us acceptable and lovable. So when we talk about those protective promises that we made so that we'll get what we need from other human beings, a lot of that stuff is our public self. Some of our public self might be real and authentic and true also, because there are some things about us that we're proud of, that we take delight in, that we want other people to know about. But this compartmentalization helps us avoid things that we don't want to face, or it helps us justify our behavior. And at a certain age, I've heard, people think that they stop caring what other people think about them. And yet, I don't know where that goalpost is, because I've known a lot of people who have experienced a lot of life that still care very deeply about making sure everybody thinks they have it all put together, and that they don't have any problems, and that if they are experiencing some problems, they need to hide until they're ready for public consumption again. We don't age out of this. It sticks with us because we build habits of how we show up. Those autopilot things just become our routine way of showing up. So why do we need to be authentic? Because it seems really messy and unsafe and scary to be authentic if what it means is having a trusted space where we can share some of those things with other people so that we're not just pretending to be more than or less than ourselves. Well, for one thing, I don't know how we get to a vision of wholeness and shalom if we are just pretending when we show up with each other. We have to be authentic people who welcome the authenticity of other messy human beings with messy lives and messy identities if we're going to have a sense of wholeness that really reflects what our values invite us to. Authenticity is also a gateway to transformation, one of our Unitarian Universalist values. It's a key component in our process toward healing the wounds, or at least resolving the unmet needs that we've experienced in our lives. Authenticity leads us to a life of more freedom and joy and purpose, because the more authentic we allow ourselves to be, the less energy we spend trying to impress people and convince people who we are. That doesn't mean we stay as we are, because all of us can continue to grow. But it means we accept where we are right now, and we trust that other people are going to as well. We don't get stuck in old patterns of those autopilot protective routines. Authenticity also draws people toward us. It's a connecting thing in our lives. It doesn't drive them away, which is kind of a startling realization for some people. We're afraid that our authenticity is going to push people away, but it doesn't. Our authentic story lets other people know that we are human just like them. It establishes deeper connection with the human beings we want to be in community with. Authenticity also helps us become more self-differentiated. I get to be completely me, and you get to be completely you, and we don't have to persuade each other to be just like us. We become more secure in who we are as we practice authenticity, and we let people be authentic with us. Authenticity, to me, is an expression of liberating love. While it isn't one of our stated values, authenticity isn't one of those petals on the flower of those values. We invite other people to embrace their own inherent worthiness as they see authenticity modeled in our lives. Sharing our journey authentically with other people allows other people to envision transformation for themselves. We become living examples of spiritual wholeness. Our lives become a movie trailer for liberating love. So authenticity is about showing up and being real and being honest and being seen as we are, and it's also a daily practice. We continue to grow in the practice of authenticity for the rest of our lives. This isn't something that we master quickly. We don't just go home and say, okay, I'm dumping everything out of the bag. It takes a little bit of work. It takes a lot of work. But information does not bring about transformation. I wish it did. Just knowing stuff does not change our lives. It comes from experience and practice to welcome new habits in our lives. We can't just create beloved community by intellectually understanding it. So often we believe that because we've read something or heard something that now things are going to change. But deep change comes through lived experience, ongoing practice, and that's how we develop new ways of being in community and as individuals. So it's not necessarily easy, especially if we're used to being strategic in our relationships. And it's not necessarily painless because vulnerability feels uncomfortable at least sometimes. And there will be times when practicing authenticity can be emotionally painful. That's a true thing. We also get to increase our tolerance for our own emotional discomfort because that is crucial for growth toward wholeness. Increasing our tolerance for our emotional discomfort is crucial for journeying toward wholeness. And we need that safe enough community of people to encourage and support one another as we build that bridge toward shalom. May it be so. And may we remember to dance with one another because we're going to need to do that. Hymn number 311 is Let It Be a Dance. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing together. 311 in the gray hymnal. a couple of announcements, by which I mean I've got a lot of announcements. We are crossing the threshold from summer into fall, and that means lots of exciting things are happening. For one thing, you might see some blue coffee mugs, some solid blue coffee mugs in the fellowship hall beginning today and hopefully continuing on for the next little while. If you are new or newer here or have some questions about Unitarian Universalism or this congregation, look for the people with these mugs. These are not for visitors that are going to stand and look forlorn until someone comes up and talks to them because they have a blue mug. These are the people you go to say, hey, tell me more about your community, tell me more about how I can get involved. Look for our connectors with the blue mugs in the fellowship hall starting today. Next week, we have our water ceremony. So all of the work that you've been doing on what you're willing to give your word to and what protective promise you may need to let go of in order to live into that new word, that'll be a part of our ceremony next week. I hope it's going to be a really meaningful water ceremony for everybody. Remember to bring your water. We'll have water here if you don't, but you can bring your personal water that's meaningful to you to contribute to our common vessel. Then the following week, on September 14th, we'll have a potluck. Everybody here will get to feed everybody here, plus some. So there's not going to be any prepared meal from the kitchen crew. It'll be all you. So if everybody brings pie, then we'll have pie. But if you bring, if it's all salads, that's what we'll have. But everybody usually brings a unique and diverse array of things. I've also been asked to let you know that the auction is coming up on November 1st. That's going to be a special event from 5:30 to 8:30 on Saturday, November 1st. There will be entertainment. There will also be auction items if you provide auction items. So now is the time when you can sign up to provide any donation of services or dinners or events that you want to provide for the auction. There's going to be a wine pull, so if you just want to buy a couple of bottles of wine and contribute those to the wine pull, there's some guidelines about that online. There's going to be a lottery tree, apparently with lottery tickets. I don't know anything about that except that it exists. And I know some groups are doing some themed baskets, so if you have a small group that wants to put together a basket of some kind, that's another thing that you can do. Information about that is online, and there's a QR code in the fellowship hall that you can use to donate something for the auction this year. Last bit of news, we do have some focus groups coming up beginning in mid-September about our building. All of the information that you have been looking at about the proposal for our building is kind of coming together with the need for a capital campaign so that we'll know what we can resource for this space. And so there'll be several focus groups. I think it's going to be in the neighborhood of 12 different opportunities for you to come together with other members of this community and explore what we need to do with our space, what our space needs from us, and what resources we have that will be able to contribute to that. Glenn Wagner is our consultant, and Glenn is actually going to be essentially on staff during that whole fall time where we're doing the focus groups, and if a capital campaign follows that, Glenn will be guiding us in doing that capital campaign. So I look forward to introducing you later in September, but I want to let you know a timeline for when that's going to begin. Mid-September, you'll get a letter probably next week with specific dates. So, lots of exciting things happening this fall. I hope you are a part of all of it. And I wanted to leave you with these words from Mark Nepo. Unconditional love is not so much about how we receive and endure each other as it is about the deep vow to never, under any condition, stop bringing the flawed truth of who we are to each other. I'll say it one more time. Unconditional love is not so much about how we receive and endure each other as it is about the deep vow to never, under any circumstances, stop bringing the flawed truth of who we are to one another. May we be so bold. Go with peace and courage.
please join me in the words to extinguishing the chalice on the back of the yellow card? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.